Honorable Dr. Devdatta Tare, sir, Assistant Professor at Postgraduate Teaching Department of Commerce in Gondwana University, Gadchiroli. Dr. Swati Rahate, ma'am, Head Research Center, GIT, faculty members, and dear participants. On behalf of Department of Business Administration of Jhulalal Institute of Technology, I, Professor Suzia Khan, welcomes you all for 7th day of pre-PhD coursework on business research. Let me take this opportunity to introduce today's guest speaker, Dr. Devdatta Tare, sir. Sir has completed MBA and MCom from North Maharashtra University and PhD from Rashtrasant Tukadoji Maharaj Nagpur University. Sir has interest in finance and business. Sir has published various national and international research papers. At present, Sir is working as assistant professor at postgraduate teaching department of commerce in Gondwana University, Gadchiroli. Sir is known for dynamic personality and strong communication and interpersonal skills. Now, I request Dr. Devdatta Tare sir to address our participants by sharing his experience and knowledge with us on research paper writing, tabulation of data, graphical representation. Please, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Suzia, madam. Just confirm me one thing, my voice is clear.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Your
thank
voice
you.
is clear.
Thank you, madam. Because meanwhile you were introducing me, your voice was breaking. So I was little worried whether it is internet connection problem or anything. Okay, not an issue. Thank you, madam. uh, Before we start, a very good morning to all of you. Uh, Dr. Swati Rahate, the convener, Suzia Khan, madam, and all the organizing committee members, the patrons of this workshop, the management, everyone. I thank you, everybody, for giving me this opportunity to interact with all of you. Mm. The topic given to me is research paper writing, tabulation of data, and graphical representation. Although the topic sounds a bit lengthy, it's not that lengthy. It's not that lengthy, and I will not take more than 1.5 hours to complete the session. And I will not also let you people bore by giving loads of slides and slides to ponder upon. Small presentation of around 25-30 slides so that you all also can have a comfortable uh, experience, and I will also have other commitments. Moving ahead, just let me share my screen. Great, great. So, madam has introduced me. My name is Devdatta Tare. Currently, I am working with Gondwana University, Gadchiroli for past 7 years. जितना मैडम ने मेरी तारीफ की उतना तारीफ के काबिल मैं हूँ ऐसा मुझे लगता नहीं है, लेकिन अभी वो ऑर्गेनाइजर है तो उन्होंने जो नमूना पकड़ के लाया है वो नमूने की तारीफ करना उनका काम है, तो इसलिए उन्होंने तारीफ की. बट कीपिंग थिंग्स अपार्ट, इफ यू लाइक माय प्रेजेंटेशन, थैंक यू. And if you don't like my presentation, you can contact your organizers that you didn't call a good person. So these all are the contents which I will try to cover in today's session. That is scientific writing versus academic writing. Then we will try to see what is a research paper or what is the nature of research paper. What are the principles of research paper writing? What are the contents of a research paper? Then tabulation of data, types of table, and different methods of presentation of statistical data. During my presentation, some things which are not mentioned here may be covered, and some things which are mentioned in this may be skipped in the flow of presentation. So pardon me for that. So we will start writing. We will start discussing our first part, that is writing research paper. So I don't know whether you all will interact, but what is a research paper, if anyone can tell me?
Can I answer?
Yeah, please. If mics are open, not an issue.
Okay. According to me, research is something new which is not exist in the society in terms of knowledge, in terms of experience. It is called research. So compiling this knowledge and experience in the form of paper, we can say it is a research paper.
Okay, great. Mr. Sahu.
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. You helped me. Now, we have two kinds of writing, as I suggested in my contents, that is scientific writing and academic writing. Now, what is scientific writing and what is academic writing? I have tried to explain it here. So, scientific writing is nothing but a systematic representation of your facts and figures, which is supported by some data, and that data is collected through some mechanism. For example, as rightly said, that we are collecting some knowledge. If you are doing some market survey, you are presenting the results. You have applied some analogy, you have applied some logic, you have applied some techniques, and then you are presenting it in a form to the readers. Then what is academic writing? Most of us would be in academics, not all of us, but most of us would be in academic writing, academics. We do many a times writing, which is not research writing, but it's a scholarly writing, or we can term it as academic writing. For example, we are writing notes, we are writing some excerpts, we are writing some research paper review, we are taking some research notes. Now, what is research notes? A compilation of research papers is a research note. A compilation of our understanding of various sources is a research note. But it is not a scientific writing, it's a academic writing. Also, if most of you are doing any accreditation process, we do write-ups for NAC or NIRF ranking or anything else for academic audits. What kind of writing it is? It is nothing our academic writing. We put our facts and figures, we put our performance in a format, and then we present it. So that is academic writing. But as far as our concern is there, in terms of our presentation or today's presentation, we are concerned with research paper. So what is research paper? And we have to write research paper. So the concept which I am trying to make you understand is that there are two types of writing. First is scientific writing, another is academic writing. Our research paper is an example, or is a display, or is a demonstration of scientific writing. Is an example, is a demonstration of scientific writing. We are using some concepts which we have learned from where, after doing our literature review. We are applying it where? In our field of study or in our plan of action. What are we doing? We are collecting the results. And then what next step we are doing? We are discussing, we are displaying, we are showing it to the audience, and that format is your research paper. So what all are the contents of a research paper? Matlab, we read an article in newspaper, we read an article in a magazine, we can read an article in some site, a blog, anything else. But how does it differ from a research paper, or how does a research paper differ from all of these? So these are some parameters which makes research paper different. So first is use of scientific and technical vocabulary. Now it itself sounds very heavy, scientific and technical vocabulary, but I will try to explain it. So what is scientific and technical vocabulary? If you are doing research on consumer behavior, if you are doing research on consumer behavior, your paper should have all the definitions concerned with your topic. If you have said consumer, your paper must contain the definition of consumer. You should not use the word consumer, customer, client, buyer as alternative words. If you have used the word consumer behavior from starting to end, in eternity, you should, or in entirely, you should always use the word consumer, because the word consumer has certain meaning which as a researcher you have kept in mind. Not as a reader, I as a reader have the liberty to consider anything, but you as a research paper writer, or you as an author of a research paper, or you as a researcher don't have the liberty to give your statements. You should stick to the statements, or you should stick to the concepts which are there defined, or which you have defined. Second part is technical vocabulary. Now, many a times we use terms in colloquial language or in our daily parlance which are not technical in nature. So for example, we call a photocopier machine as Xerox machine. We all are aware about that. That Xerox is a company which made photocopiers, and it was popular, very much popular. But if you see nowadays, most of the machines are of not of Xerox company. Many of them are of Canon, some of them are of Brother or Sharp. But still we use the term Xerox. So this kind of terminology should be avoided in our research paper. We should always use technical words for which are known. Say for example, if you have replaced any part of your vehicle, the service guy or the service showroom, the service engineer will always refer to the part with number. Or if you know the spanner, जिसे हम पाना कहते हैं, they will also refer it as with a number. Why? Because in their parlance, for us it is a spanner, but for them there are differentiation with according to their numbers. So they stick to their technical vocabulary. So we as a researcher should always use proper scientific and technical vocabulary. I hope I am clear with this first point. Now second point, use of graphical representation. Why I have highlighted? Because it's a part of my discussion, or the second point which I have to cover, that is use of graphical representation. So I will cover it here in brief, and then in detail when I will go with my presentation we will discuss. So graphical representation, why it is important, or why it should be part of your research paper. Reading verbose information sometimes creates a feeling of or a sense of boringness in the minds of readers. So first, to give a visual relief to the readers. Second, seeing graphs and seeing diagrams makes an impact on your mind to understand the numbers or figures very clearly. Why? That we will discuss in later part. So I will move to the third point, that is use of conventional report form. Now when I say use of conventional report form, it means what? First thing is that we should have an objective why we are doing everything. But you should write it in a proper way, and that way should be justified. That means your presentation, your writing of paper should have a proper format. It should be with proper font. It should have proper font size. It should have proper justification. It should have a proper spacing. It should have proper title, page numbering, everything. It should be in a proper format. That is a conventional reporting format. Now, what is unconventional or new format of reporting? Many times you would have seen infographics in newspapers or in websites. They are using interactive charts or interactive figures, where words are lacking, and the reader is herself interpreting the charts or figures. But as a researcher, we cannot do this. We should not do this. We should write our format, we should write our report in a proper way, which is conventional. Then the fourth topic, or the fourth point, which should be there always in your research paper, that is author's attitude. Now, what is author's attitude? First is impartiality, and second is objectivity. Now, what is impartiality and what is objectivity? Even if you are doing some research, you should be without bias. You should be without bias. Now, when I say bias, we can just do a small exercise. Bias is what you will understand. I say a simple statement. Ki, all the businessmen are crooks. Bade businessmen, all the millionaires, multimillionaires are crooks. Is it a correct statement? If you ask me personally, it is not a correct statement. But if you go in public and if you say this thing, public sense will be the same. But can public sense be our opinion? Your opinion may be same, but it should not be reflected in your research. You are doing research on the quality of a product. If you are doing research on the parameters, financial parameters of a company, you are doing research about HR practices of a company, you are doing research regarding any operational practices of an organization, Your bias should not peep into your research. Your bias should not peep into research. Also, you should have an attitude where if results are not going as per your expectations, but they are true, then you should accept it. That is your objectivity. When we are framing our hypothesis or when we are writing our objectives, we write it that sun rises in the east. So for example, sun rises in the east. This is a statement. So our objective is to prove that sun rises in the east. If by any chance we are able to prove that sun rises in the west, we should not feel sorry. Arey, aisa kaise ho gaya? How it has happened? Sun to rises in the east. We have been taught, it has been proved, but how it is happening? Our main objective is to do research. That means we are here to find facts and not to gauge the perception of people first, and second, not to keep on hanging to what has happened in the past. If we keep on hanging what has happened in the past, we will not be able to proceed. So we have to accept what is happening. We have to accept it without having our own bias. The next point, which should always be in part of research paper, is that concise and accurate information. What do you mean by concise and accurate information? Concise means in a smaller form. See, if you are being asked about something, a reader is not reading your script or your research paper as some holy scripture that he will open it every morning, 7 o'clock, 7 to 8. He will start reading it for 1 hour. Then he will bow down his head and keep it in puja ghar. No, he has not time. He has not anything. So he has only here to read. He will just okay, 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 okay. Be it your reviewer, be it your reader, he doesn't have that much time to keep on reading things up again and again and again. So you have to give him concise information. And second is accurate information. Accurate information means if I ask you what is your respondent size or what is your sample size, you cannot say, okay, sir, there are 50 plus samples I have collected. No, 50 plus is 51 as well as 59. As a researcher, it is your responsibility that your data should be accurate. If it is 54, you should say 54. If it is 59, you should say 59. 50 plus around 50, approximately 50, these are not proper terms to use in research paper. So you should avoid using such things. And last point, which I have highlighted and which I think is most important, that is absence of efforts to arouse emotions. You all, I hope you all are 25 to 35 age group. So you all must be remembering that 12 to 15 years ago, there was a huge uproar in news media, everything, that the Maggie, the Nestle noodles, which we know by the brand Maggie, were contaminated with some kind of pesticides or some kind of chemicals which were hanikarak to our body, which were not good for our body, and we were consuming it. So the agency which did that survey or the agency which published that report, it published the table. If you search on Google also, it has happened with Cadbury, Coca-Cola, Maggie, all this. So that agencies doing this kind of research or agencies they are publishing such kind of research, they don't say that Maggie is disastrous to health or Coca-Cola is not a good, or Cadbury or dairy milk product is having worms or anything. They say that the prescribed FDA limit of having such and such content is this. And the things which are there present in this Maggie, Cadbury, Coca-Cola are above this level. So if it is expected that 10% should be there and it is having 15%, they will just say that there is an increase or there is a deviation of 50%. But they will never report that, oh, this Maggie is disastrous, don't it. Oh, this Cadbury is having poison, don't it. Because it will give an uproar in the minds of consumers. So you should not play with the emotions. You should not play with the emotion. You should just stick to your facts, figures supported by your data. Even if you search recent max to max 6 months, 1 year ago, there was a case with Johnson and Johnson baby powder also. Now Johnson and Johnson's baby powder is not available in market as the government has banned it. Why? Because it was having some harmful contents which were not good for the baby's skin. So these are the cases which are were in recent past, but they were not highlighted in a way where emotions are aroused. So this is the slide. I will again once again wrap up what we are going to have in our research report. First, we should always use scientific and technical vocabulary. Then we should have a graphical representation. Third, we should use conventional form of reporting. Fourth, our attitude should be always impartial and we should stick to objectivity. Information which we are providing should be concise as well as accurate. And last, our report or our research paper should never lead to an arousal of emotions. Now, I told you what research paper should have, what is the nature of research paper. But what are the principles or what are the guidelines? Roughly, I'm saying these are not written in some that you have to conform to these guidelines. But roughly, we have these principles wherein we follow to use a research paper in an effective way. First, understanding the potential reader. Now, for whom you are writing this research paper, that should be very clear in our mind. For whom we are writing. Frankly speaking, nobody is writing research paper for the readers. We all are writing research paper for our selfish wants of having. As a teacher we want promotions, as a teacher we want career advancement. That's why we are writing paper. As a scholar, you all want a PhD, you want a degree. It's a mandatory requirement for you till now. That's why you are publishing paper. But all in all, still we have to say good things. So why do we have to write a research paper? While writing a research paper, we should have in our mind for whom we are writing. So potential reader. So who is our potential reader? So first potential reader of our research paper is the research paper reviewer or the journal reviewer, whom we call editor, as well as peer reviewed journals are there. So there are reviewers. So these are the people who are having, sorry, these are the persons who are having some kind of subject knowledge. Some kind of subject knowledge. So your paper, now it's a challenge. Your end product is to be read by a person who is not having any kind of knowledge about your paper or who is not aware about the terms which you are discussing. Whereas your first reader, that is your reviewer, is going to be a person who is having some kind of knowledge in your subject. So you have to keep a balance between both of them. Your first reader should not be bored. Your first reader should not be bored. By bored means you should not discuss terms, or we should not keep on saying terms which are very easy to understand. So if you are writing a paper on financial or ratio analysis or some reports, you should not go to 11th standard accounts and keep defining what is journal, what is accounts, what is this and what is that. But if you are using any technical terms, EVA, economic value added, or EBITDA, you should explore these terms in your research paper, because your reader should understand. So before your reader should understand, you should understand the reader what he is going to understand. That is understanding the potential reader. हम किसके लिए लिख रहे हैं? If you are writing a paper in a good journal which is Scopus or some anything ABDC or anything, any damn thing you want, so there you need to have a scholarly approach. If you are writing a paper which is in your student magazine, or if you are writing a paper in a student journal, then you have to use terms which are comparatively easier to understand. Then second point is deciding the purpose of writing. Why are we writing this paper? Again, I will say that हमको चाहिए हमारे स्वार्थ के लिए, इसलिए हम लिख रहे हैं. But again, deciding the purpose of writing. What is the purpose of writing? See, if you are doing it for your award of degree, that is your PhD, you are publishing a part of your research. You are publishing a part of your research. So your title and your content should always be related to your thesis. You should not run away from your thesis. You should not run away from the contents of your thesis. You should stick to that objective, or you should stick to that conclusions that I have to publish this paper or I have to publish this contents. Then third, that is using proper language. What is proper language? If you are writing a research paper, it is expected that you should write it grammatically correct. You should use proper punctuation marks, full stop, comma, colon, semicolon, then dot 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 for then parenthesis, quotations. So you should so you should use this properly. So language doesn't only mean your words, it also means your grammar, your punctuality, punctuation marks, everything. Now, why it is important? Because as a researcher, it is expected that you are a scholarly person, you are doing scholarly writing. So your research paper should not convey a different meaning which is expected apart, which you are not expecting. So you should use a proper language. Also, while writing your research paper, you should stick to your only one language. The way I am speaking, I am using some words which are in Hindi. This should not happen in your writing research paper. You have to write research paper in one language only. If you are writing it in English, stick to English. If you are writing it in any other language, you stick to that language. Get it corrected by some software if you are not sure about your grammar. Get it corrected through some your friends if you believe him, her or him, and then only you should proceed with your paper. Then next point is effectively communicating the results. So main focus is about communicating the results. Now communicating the results means what? Result should be the highlight of research paper. Result should be the highlight of research paper. Now effectively communicating, if you have found a result which was not as per your expectation, but yes, it is supported by data and it is true, then you should put it in a way that the readers what I can say, readers focus is attracted towards it. Reader's focus is attracted towards it, his attention is grabbed there, and he is interested in how this result has happened, what process he or she has applied. And next is attractiveness of the writing. When I say attractiveness of the writing, you should use simple terms, not try to avoid jargons. Many times researchers or scholars or even teachers, I will say, are caught in a trap where they use heavy words to show that their article or their research is very good. That doesn't work at all. If you are doing research, you should be able to put it in simple words. If you are not able to put it in simple words, you yourself are lacking in understanding your research or your subject or your concept. If you are not able to explain it in very simple terms, I must say, if you are trying to explain it, if you can explain, I don't know how many of you are married. If you are having kid, if you are able to explain a concept to your kid, that means you are able to make it explain to anybody. Because sitting in front of scholars who are doing PhD, opening a PPT, reading it out, it's a very easy task. But sitting in front of a 5 or 6 year, 4-year-old kid and explaining him what is attractiveness, what is effective communication, what is proper language, if I can do it, then only I can deliver this subject. Otherwise, you are not able to do it. So your research paper should always be attractive. That doesn't mean it should be overlaid with jargons. You can use technical terms, but for explaining the results, for communicating the results, for conveying your thoughts, you should always avoid using jargons. बोर तो नहीं हो गए ना?
No, sir.
अरे मैडम, आप तो हाँ नहीं बोल, आपको ना बोलना ही नहीं, आप हाँ ही बोलेंगे. आपने मुझे बुलाया, तो बाकी के लोग नहीं बोल रहे, इसका मतलब बाकी के लोग बोर हो गए. आप तो मुझे अच्छा ही बोलेंगे, आपने बुलाया, कोई दिक्कत नहीं. चले, मेरे को तो काम है बोर करना, तो मैं तो करूंगा. आई विल नॉट रन अवे फ्रॉम इट. सो व्हाट आर द कंटेंट्स ऑफ रिसर्च पेपर? अ रिसर्च पेपर, मैंने इतनी सारी बातें कह दी, आई टोल्ड यू सो मेनी थिंग्स कि research paper should be written in such and such way. Then research paper should have these types of features, but exactly what all contents we should use in a research paper, or what are the chronology which we should follow in writing research paper. So first we should have introduction. What is introduction? Introduction is nothing but your introduction is nothing but about your topic, the concepts which you are introducing in the minds of readers. So if you are writing a topic about consumer buying behavior or consumer behavior about such and such products in such and such geography or in such and such region, you should say about something about that topic. Why you have selected this topic, what is this concept, what is this geography, what are the limitations. In brief, you should give a reader an idea कि ये हमारा क्या है. So it's basically trailer of your research paper. As a movie is of 3 hours and the trailer is of 3 minutes, so your introduction or your abstract is nothing but your trailer. Second point which your research paper or any research paper has is review of literature and theoretical orientation. Now, what is review of literature? Literature review means nothing but we all are not some kind of divine souls that we sit in a room and some idea will come directly in our mind. Ideas come to in our mind when we start exploring things. If you start exploring things, that means you have to read. You have to read prior research. You have to read research which has been done in similar geographies on similar topics by similar category of persons. That means researchers, teachers, sponsored research. So if this kind of research is happening, you should be aware about it. So we start reading it. When we are reading it, we review it. Review it means we will try to point out some similarities which are across all papers. We will try to find out differences where every researcher has differed or where we may differ as per their conclusions. So this is your review of literature and theoretical orientation. Then third point, which you should explain, always explain in your research paper. Any research paper you see, you will find these things are always there. Third thing is that methodology or experimental techniques. Well, what do you mean by methodology? If you are going by survey method, okay, good survey method. Then what is your population? What is your sample size? How you decided the selection of sample? How you administered them the survey? Did you administer them survey or you administered them a questionnaire and schedule? So how you administered them a questionnaire and how you administered them a schedule? How the respondents replied to you? How the data was collected? These are parts of your methodology or experimental techniques. Then results. Next point is results. So what your results are showing, are they going in line with your objectives and hypothesis? Are they going against your objectives and hypothesis? But yes, you are able to prove it with your data. Then you should discuss it. Discuss means what are the interpretations. Next point is summary and conclusion. पूरी बात का हमें सार बताना है. All in all, what is the summary of that our research paper, that this is the conclusion which we are trying to, which we have proved or which we have not able to prove, we have to write it. And last, we have to give our references and citations. As I said, we are not divine souls that some idea will come. We will read some books. We will cite some already used terms, so that you have to give a mention. So these are the contents which are always there in a research paper. First is introduction, next is review of literature, theoretical orientation, methodology, results and discussions, summary conclusions, references and citations. And I have circulated a word file with the organizers which has a detailed information about these things. So they may give it to you. So it is having a detailed discussion about these contents. So I hope I have covered with research paper, and I will be moving with tabulation of data. So far so good. I hope I am not boring you. Even if it is boring, you have to bear with me. Now, tabulation of data. What is tabulation of data? I have mentioned first, second, third, or first, second, finally, but I have not kept icons to two things and only kept icon to one thing. Why? It create it creates a pattern in your eyes that there should be an icon. So if icon is there, it must be on the heads of or it should be placed at proper position. But here only you are able to see at one place and not at two places. Now, oh, आ गया ये. The first icon came at the last, and the last icon comes second. Why I made this change? Why I made this change? Just to give you a sense that as these things are not in pattern, our eyes will observe. Our eyes will observe things which are not in pattern. So how you are able to observe this? Because your eyes or your visual sense catches the aesthetics or visual abilities immediately as far as words are concerned or speech is concerned as compared to speech or word. So it was a small experiment that first I made an icon which was lying here. Then I got the icon which was lying on the finally head and the icon on the firstly head so that it creates an impact. Now we will discuss what is a tabulation of data. First, what it is, why it is. It is helpful in highlighting the significant facts contained in the data. It helps us to highlight the significant facts contained in the data. What is data? You went to a survey, you went to a field and you collected samples from around 500 people. You got response from 500 persons. Now 500 persons have replied to your 20 questions. So you have a data of around 10,000 parameters. So if you have to analyze that data, how boring that work is. But if you are highlighting it in some types of tables, it's easy for you as a researcher to gauge the sense. Then it is able, if tabulation is there, it facilitates comparison of data. And finally, it is easy for understanding and getting a sense of statistical information. So this was regarding tabulation, why we need to tabulate the data. But what exactly is table? What exactly a table means? Table is nothing. What we call it as a table or a statistical table is nothing but an systematic arrangement. When I say systematic arrangement, there is a expectation in our minds that there should be a system of what? Of columns and rows with given predetermined and a well decided objective. Now what is that predetermined and well decided objective? See, now the table has popped up on your screen. Now this is a table. This is nothing but a simple grade sheet or grade card, you can say. Now what it is? It's a table, simple table, which we have seen from our childhood. So it's a table and it is a systematic arrangement of what? Data. Now what data it is having? It is having data of students. Students' name are written in what order? We have written it in alphabetical order. In what pattern? Last name and first name. Last name and first name. So we have followed the pattern. Then we have written the marks in test 1 and then when we have written marks in test 2. So it is nothing but your systematic representation of data. And why it is used? To explain the nature of information. Its rows and columns are designated with appropriate headings which are known as stubs and captions respectively. As well as presentation of data in tabular form should be simple, planned, unambiguous and logical. Now what does these terms means? Simple means first your table should fit in eyes. The moment we see our table, our mind should be able to comprehend what data it is able to give. Second, it should be planned. Planned means your table should be placed in such a way or should have such information which is deriving or which is present in your research paper or which is present in your research thesis or which is present with you and you are showing it in a tabular format. Unambiguous. Unambiguous means non confusing. गोल गोल घुमाने वाली बात करने वाला नहीं चाहिए. And logical. Logical means we have to use it, we have to present the data in some logic. So if you are giving chronological data, it must be in yearly format, 2000, 2001, 2002. You cannot go on at random. First you are showing 2000, then you are showing 2020, then you are showing 2015 data. That data should be in a proper logical way. If you are showing grade sheet, your grade sheet should always have a accordingly as per roll number or as per alphabetical name of your students. If you are showing some your research results, your research result should always be related to your parameters or the test or the conditions which you have applied. Then there are types of table. First is reference table. Now, what is a reference table? Reference table is nothing but a voluminous table, or we can say, which is the main store of information, which are general purpose with aim of presenting detailed statistical information. Best example is our census data. Best example is your CPI data, that is consumer price index जो रहता है inflation का, that data. So that data is having primary collection of data, and it is being presented in a way which is from where using that table we can make secondary data. So these are known as reference table. So how it is used? How it is used? See, if you are having a table which is having information regarding students, so name of the students, his gender, sorry, his or her gender, then his academic standard, class जिसे हम कहते हैं first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever it is, then his average percentage, no, not average percentage, his marks received in every semester or in every term, we have that sheet. So this is your main reference table which you are using. Now, if you are doing an extract of that table, it is known as text table. If you are doing an extract from that table, it is known as text table. For example, if you are having a data of 500 students of all the standard 1st to 10th, and then I am asking you the data for 10 standard students only, you are making a small table, getting the reference from the bigger table. If I am asking you the report for male students and female students, you are making it categorization from main reference table. If you are doing consumer survey, I am asking you data for east part of XYZ city, you are able to give it. If you are doing consumer survey, if I am asking you for data of higher income group, you should be able to give it. So these are parts of reference table, or which we can use to make a text table. So text table is nothing but a subset of reference table. So reference table is a big table, and from where we derive a data, it is known as text table. Then in tabulation of data or in tables, we have some concepts which we must be aware. Many a times we use these terms in interchangeable way, but this should not be done, and we should be able to understand what exactly it is. So we have table number, title of the table. If you are research paper of your thesis is using more than one table, and in all probabilities your research paper or your research thesis will always have more than one table, we should give a table number. We should always give a table number. Now, how table number should be given, or why table number should be given? Table number should be given for easy identification of tables first. And how it should be given? It should be given in sequential form. If your first unit is having first table, then it should be numbered as 1.1. If your first unit is having 5 tables, it should be numbered as 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. If it is if it is going on to unit number 2, it should have table numbering as 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and so on and so forth. So that immediately looking at the table number, you will be able to understand which chapter or which part, which paragraph it is related. Then second is every table should have a title. Number तो है, लेकिन we should always have a title to our table as well. Why? Because numbers will not be able to tell you what the table is depicting, so a table should always have a name. As we are having identity, just one second. Yeah, sorry for the interruption. Yes, as we are having our identity, a table should also have an identity. In if we are giving number, it helps in arranging the table of contents, but it should have a identity and giving a description what is the content of that table. So it's an indication of the information which is contained in the table. Then stubs. What are stubs? Stubs are nothing but the headings or the title or the captions or the names of rows. Headings, title, captions, or names of the rows. So stubs are used to designate rows. How? I will show it in next slide. Then footnote. What is a footnote? Footnote is nothing but a qualifying statement that is put below at the statement, that if you are using some data, if you are showing some data for the year 2022-23, and it is uh, updating data. So if CPI data, that is consumer price index data, if it is there, they always say that this data is collected subject to correction of market prices as on 31st March something something. Matlab, they are trying to convey if the things are get updated, or if the things, our data is based on these notions. So that is their footnote. Anything which additional information which you have to give is written in footnote. And last and important part is source of data. If you are using a data which a text table which you have derived from a reference table, you have to say what is the source of data. So if you are using it from some book, some journal, some website, some data set, you have to give the source of that thing. Now, this is an example of table. What all things it is having? First, it is having table number. I have a table number. Then it is having the title. Then it is having stub. Now I have mentioned what is stub. That is nothing but a name of row. So it is giving stub head, stub entries. Then columns are nothing but the vertical arrangement of data, and rows are horizontal. Column matlab in a vertical order, and rows means in a horizontal order. Then you have to write the footnotes. What is the footnote? From where you got it, and the source. What is the source of data? Footnote is nothing but any qualifying information which you want to write, and source is nothing but from where you got the table. So this was up to tabulation of data. Now we will move to the third part, that is graphical representation. Now why I said I will explain graphical representation later. Then a picture speaks 1,000 words. We all know it's a famous thing. A picture speaks 1,000 words. So our data should always be attractive in the term that tables words are again not easy to comprehend. If we are reading or if we are doing data which is of voluminous nature, it many times creates a fatigue in the minds of reader as well as in the minds of researcher. So also a visual impact is created in the minds of layman. So we are doing research not in isolation but for the society, but for everyone. So our research should not be in isolation, and it should have an impact in the minds of reader. So if you give, you have seen in news articles and even in TV nowadays. Earlier, if something used to happen, see, if election is happening, no, forget election. I will not give political example. If a cricket match is happening, if it is match between India and Australia, India-Australia match is happening. Earlier, they used to show some statistics. Okay, this batsman scored such and such run. This batsman scored such and such run. Now, what happens? They will show a 3D image wherein that batsman's image will be shown in some particular size, and another player's image should be shown in either in higher proportion if he has scored more runs than him, or in lower proportion if he has scored lesser runs than him. Then now if you see technique of showing replays, now you see Hawkeye, you see the 3D effects which are happening on the ground. So what it creates? It creates a visual delight in the minds of viewer. But our work is now related to paper and everything in offline mode, and our reader, we don't know when when he or she is going to read the paper. So we have to create a visual delight in the minds of reader which is based on data. So that's a challenge for us as a researcher, and to fulfill that challenge we have to use some graph. Now, what are the popular graphs? First is line graph. Second is histogram. Next is frequency polygon, frequency curve, and ogive. These are some of the popular forms which are used in a research paper or in research thesis. Now, I'm not going to tell you how you construct it, because now it's become very easy if you use any good software which is used for this kind of visual techniques. Most popular software which we all are aware, which we all use, is Microsoft Excel. Many of these things are done in Microsoft Excel easily. Only thing is that we are not aware. So don't go for any paid version of anything. Microsoft Excel, if you are licensed version of Microsoft Excel, most of your things will be taken care by. But what I am going to discuss now is when we should use which type of graph and what are the basic differences between these kinds of graphs. So that will be my content now. So first is line chart. A line chart is nothing but there is an x-axis, there is y-axis, and you plot your points. You plot your points to show the changes over the period. It is nothing but to show the changes over the period, to draw a pattern, to have a understanding of trend. And if you want to do it in Excel, there is a function known as spark line. If you use it, you will be able to do it. Then next is, or not next, it's a subtype of line chart. It is known as historiogram, not histogram. It is known as historiogram. So a line chart depicting a data which is based on time variables, that is for months, years, etc. It is known as historiogram, not histogram. I will repeat myself. It is known as historiogram. So historiogram is nothing but a line charts depicting time series data, which may be months, years, etc. Then next type is histogram. This is histogram. Earlier, which we discussed, was historiogram. Now, what is histogram? Histogram is nothing but a rectangular diagram which is in two-dimensional pattern. If you see line diagram is unidimensional, single dimensional. You see only one dimension. But if you see histogram, you will be able to see there are two dimensions. So why it is used? It is used to show the cumulative and collective progress of data. It is used for displaying data which is cumulative in nature, that data which gets accumulated with you. Then next is frequency polygon. So polygon is nothing but an figure which has many sides. So it's a graph of frequency distribution. So a frequency polygon is obtained from a histogram by joining the midpoints. At the top of various rectangles with the help of straight line. So this kind of frequency polygon will be beneficial to you if you as a researcher want to show the average of the trend. So if you have data of purchasing or of sales or of the profits, and then you have to show the midway, you can highlight it by using frequency polygon. Then the next is frequency curve. Now, if you remove the histogram and just keep the polygon, it is known as frequency curve. If the points obtained in the case of frequency polygon are joined with the help of a smooth curve, we get a frequency curve. Then the last and the least used is ogive. Ogive is nothing but a graph of cumulative frequency distribution. And since it is cumulative frequency distribution, it can be described or it can be classified or it can be categorized into two types, that is less than ogive or greater than ogive. So if your values are above, if your values are going above your cumulative frequency distribution, then it will be always lesser than, and vice versa, it will be greater than. So these are the two types of ogives. Now, there is a difference between graphical representation and diagrammatic representation. What is the differentiation? Because as far as my content is concerned, I have been given the responsibility to cover graphical representation, but it's my responsibility to convey you as a researcher about the information what is graphical representation. Someone's mic is on, I guess. Mr. Vishal Patil. Sir, if you can please mute. Yeah, thank you, sir. So there is a difference between graphical representation and diagrammatic representation. What basically it is? So graphical representation is not a substitute for other form of presentation as well as further statistical analysis. Graphical representation is cannot be used for statistical analysis, but diagrammatic representations can be used for statistical analysis. So and diagrammatic representations are used. So what is graphs and what is diagram? Graphs we have just seen, that line chart. Just second. Line chart is an example, ogive is an example, frequency curve is an example, frequency polygon is an example, histogram, historiogram, everything is example of graphical representation. We are having a graph, but now we are going to discuss about diagrammatic representation. So diagrams are different from graphs as they are used for statistical analysis. So what is a diagram? A diagram is a visual form of presentation of statistical data. Diagram refers to bars, squares, circles, maps, etc. Diagrams are different from graphs, as the former as I just discussed with you, okay, that these are the content of a diagrammatic representation apart from graphical representation. Now, the most popular diagrammatic representation which we are aware, first is bar diagram and second is pie chart. So what is a bar diagram? Bar diagram is nothing but a content which is used to show the factors which are comprising. So this is hypothetical data. I didn't get any example, so I give an example of planets. So you can say that these are the planets name, and these are the contents which are found in their crust. So I have just given colors, factors, factor 1, factor 2, and when we have to show data which is in comparative nature, but at the same time it is different for each respondent. Say for example, if you want to show the number of electric appliances used by each household income group, lower income group, middle income group, higher income group, you can show this in a way. So if you are showing that instead of Venus, if you write that it's a low income group, it is having number of electric appliances, so it will be always less. Number of consumer durables, it will be more. So you can show a comparison or of the components. Then pie chart. Pie chart is used to show the comparison of the entities which are of same set, which are of same set. So if you want to show student scoring percentage of marks more than 75%, you can have a pie chart. If you want to show students scoring 100% attendance, you can show a pie chart. If you want to show students scoring less than average marks, you can show a pie chart. In the same way, in a similar chart, you can have multiple entries. So this was all from my side. Last type is pictocharts. Pictocharts are nothing but you use a picture to highlight some data points. So if you want to say you have to highlight any particular entity in a graph, in a geography, in a display, you use these kinds of pinnings. This is known as pictocharts. So this can be used for your diagrammatic or graphical representation. Apart from that, there are two documents which I would like to share with you. That is guidance document on good academic research practices, and second is consortium for academic research and ethics, that is care journal. First document will help you that what practices you should do or what techniques you should adopt and which things you should avoid while publishing your research. And second is where you should publish your research paper or what precautions you should take while publishing your research paper. So I have shared it with the organizers the same. So I again thank you all everyone for patiently listening, the organizers for inviting me, and the Almighty for making me able to deliver in front of you today. So thank you very much. Over to the organizers.
Thank you, sir. I request participants if they have any query they can ask. Sir, I have one question.
मैडम आपको क्वेश्चन है?
Yes, sir.
पूछिए मैडम, अगर क्षमता होंगी तो बता दूंगा.
Sir, actually, I want to know that what is the exact format for Scopus paper? That how should we start regarding Scopus paper?
You want the report format? How you should write?
Yes, sir.
Madam,
Is it the same as we write regular papers, or it is different from that?
Generally, madam, if you go for Scopus papers, every journal has its own manuscript guidelines. If you visit or if you are targeting any particular journal, and if you go and visit their website, they should have a manuscript guidelines. They want their guideline. You can refer that guidelines and you can proceed in that way. But as far as speaking generally or speaking in totality, what I said or what we are doing, it is more or less similar way. But specific journal or every journal has its own manuscript guidelines. You can refer it.
Sir, is it compulsory to do hypothesis testing in Scopus paper, or we should mention all these statistical tools?
Yes. If it is based
Okay.
on survey based or research, if you are proving
Yes.
something, how
Okay.
you are going to say? But if you are not proving something, it's a scholarly article, it's your observation. They will publish such kind of article, but then you need a reputation that we don't have that reputation. Even many of the scholars in India don't have that reputation. So our research is published in a way which is supported by data. So good papers are published when they are having this kind of processes of having objectives, when their hypotheses are there, when they are tested and they are tested in a scientific way and you have a data.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, madam.
Anybody else wants to ask any question?
अरे नहीं जी, इन्होंने मुझे रिप्लाई नहीं दिया तो मैं भी इनको नहीं रिप्लाई दूंगा.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Now I
ma'am.
request Professor Tanu Gautam ma'am to propose a vote of thanks.
अरे मैम, थैंक यू के लिए.
No, ma'am, you are not audible.
मैडम हो गया. थैंक यू के लिए. क्या इतना हो गया? आपने मुझे बुलाया, मैं आपका आभारी हूँ. आपने मेरे आभार माने, इसके लिए भी मैं आपका आभारी हूँ.
Hello, I'm audible.
Yes, madam, you are audible. Please, madam.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, one and all. Today I feel honored and privileged to have been allowed to extend a vote of thanks for today's session. On behalf of GIT, PSG Research Center, I would like to extend my warm regards and heartiest congratulations to our eminent speaker, Dr. Devdatta Tare sir, for giving his precious and valuable time to us. As sir has enlightened the topic on research paper writing, tabulation of data, and graphical representation. I'm sure it would helpful to our participants to make a direction during their PhD journey. I want to extend my gratitude to convey Dr. Swati Rahate ma'am, Head Research Center, GIT, for her continuous support in organizing the program. I would like to thank to all participants of pre-PhD coursework for being with us today. I feel proud and thank you for making today's session a successful one. Now I request to all participants to turn on camera for common pic. Kindly turn on your camera. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.